Yeah, like compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. It is the basis of our entire financial independence strategy, is that we can invest money and it will grow for us in perpetuity, right? And we can use that time to build wealth and then retire early, and then beyond that point live on the passive income, because money does grow over time. I look at each of my dollars as like soldiers want to go put to work, right? They're minions or employees, and it's your job to manage your personal finances like it's a business. I see too many people jump on with just one source of income, and that's their total plan. They're like, oh, I'm retiring on this one thing. I think having varied sources of income is important.
What is up, YouTube? Not sure if you guys have been longtime followers, but if you have, you may remember one of the very first videos I did with Mike Rosehart on my YouTube channel was we both took a retirement quiz right after Mike had quit his day job and went full-time real estate investing. Spoiler alerts, we did not pass the quiz. Today we dive back and do a reaction video on that old video from 2017, I think it was 2017, and break down for you guys exactly what our thoughts and perspectives were and whether we agree or disagree with this retirement quiz. Again, spoiler alert, we don't agree with a lot of it, but I'd love to get your perspective. Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you enjoying these reaction videos? Do you want to see more of them? Do you want more Mike Rosehart on my YouTube channel? Let me know in the comments, and let's dive into today's video. What is up, you guys? Matt McKeever here with Michael Rosehart. It's been a while since we did a YouTube video together, and we were chatting about that, and I thought, why not jump back into the time machine and go look at the very first video we ever shot together for my YouTube channel. Seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah, it's been well over 2.5 years now. Wow.
It's crazy. And so before we get into watching this, just Mike, real quick, if you don't mind telling the audience who you are, maybe where they've seen you before. You do some YouTube stuff?
I have a YouTube channel. It's got just under 15,000 subscribers. I talk about personal finance. That's my focus, but I also branch out into real estate. And Matt and I overlap in those topics. And for 2.5 years, I've been on YouTube with first Matt's channel, and then he encouraged me to make my own channel about 1.5 years ago, and it's been great. I've got around 50 properties. I'm financially independent, 2% safe withdrawal rate. So
Canada's youngest retiree.
Yeah, sometimes I go by that title, Canada's youngest retiree. Although lately I've been having some challenges from young entrepreneurs who invested in Bitcoin, and we're oh, you're not the youngest, Bitcoin, investor here. I made it big when I was 18 with my dad's money that 100,000% grew. I'm oh, cool. That makes you the youngest. And now I'm Canada's youngest self-made through frugality with the caveats, right? So.
Nice.
It's a title that I'm not really trying to defend that hard because life's good.
Yeah, and I think one thing we've really realized is that retirement isn't this black and white binary thing, right? It's really a spectrum, it's a scale, it's whatever you want to call. And so it feels perfect that our very first video was actually myself and Mike taking a retirement quiz back in, when was this? May of 2019, I think.
2017.
Or 2017, sorry, yeah. So do you remember, Mike, were you still working your full-time job then?
I quit in February, so I'd been retired for 3 months.
Okay, so just kind of very new to retirement. Okay.
Dealing with my daughter would have been about 3 months old then, so I would have been extremely sleep deprived. No, wait, it should have been 1 year and 3 months old. So I would have been an at-home dad full time dealing with her. So that would have been I probably would have been really tired at that time, and yeah. Net worth's grown significantly since then. That was in the new build that I finished the basement myself. Good times.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already recording.
Is it recording? We put that on.
Yeah. That's our intro.
Hey guys, I'm here with Michael Rosehart, and today we're going to be doing
we were pro YouTubers, weren't we?
Where we're just going to be kind of going through
it's funny to see. Pre-beard is crazy.
I know, you look like a baby.
A little bit of background. Both myself and Michael
maybe we should bring the look back.
So
maybe.
Kind of want to go through
maybe new year, new Matt.
To let people know if they're ready to retire and agree or disagree with it. And so as a little bit of background about Michael.
Hey. Yeah, so I can't give you guys the whole story in this one video because it would probably take an hour.
Yeah.
But to give you a synopsis, I'm going to be 25 shortly. I'm financially independent. Most of my current sources of passive income are real estate related. I worked.
Is that still true?
So yeah, I mean, most of my current sources of passive income are still real estate related. Well, I guess the medical company that I own is going to be a good source of income for this year. This year, probably not, but up until this point,
the majority.
Yeah, the majority was real estate.
From school, I went to
lending and stuff too, which is real estate eventually, as well as the goal.
School. of business after that. I worked my way up from my first property at 19 to now I have 12 properties currently. I'm searching towards
That changed. 12 to like 60 or something.
Well, and in between that, you sold a bunch, right?
did, yeah.
And then bought a bunch.
So I bought a bunch, got from 12, I guess there. I bought 5 more right after I retired. So then I went up to 17. And then that summer I was like, oh, I'm done with all this. Like I had a bunch of tenant struggles. And then I think I sold 11 off. So I had like 4 or 5, like almost no real estate at all, right? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to invest in stocks. Did that for a bit and was like, you know what? I can't stay out of this game. And then went like crazy and bought way too many in a year.
And are we about to see a giant sell-off again now?
I think a rebalance is in order. I'm a little heavier in real estate than I would like. Yeah. There will be I think some people would consider it a massive sell-off, but to me it'd be like maybe half my portfolio.
What you refer to in the mustachian world as the 4% rule.
And so we're both big believers in the 4% rule, and that's essentially just the safe withdrawal rates that I've talked about a bunch on different videos in my YouTube channel, so you can check that out.
It's weird, you don't necessarily think of it as being like that we were that different of people, but like the level of nervousness and lack of animation there is very apparent to me versus today.
You've definitely built confidence.
But otherwise, I think a lot of people make it out to be a way more complicated subject matter if and when you're ready at the crossover point, and there is no like exact defined moment where it's going to click for you, but you kind of know once you really get into this whole ecosystem. And so we both, I think, originally discovered financial independence through Early Retirement Extreme. Jacob,
and you ended up getting to go meet Jacob, right?
Yeah, Kyle and I went and drove to Chicago and spent the night in his house.
Yeah.
It was it's one of those meet your hero moments.
So this one here is from moneysense.ca. Are you ready to retire quiz? And so I'll put a link down below in the video description. But so it's a 10-question quiz. And the first one is, you own a paid-for home.
Do either of us meet this part? You own a paid-for home. So you own an outright
it isn't
house?
Paid for.
Yeah.
No.
So again, we failed question 1 on the money sense or whether you're ready to retire quiz.
In fact, I'm ready to refinance it again. Pull as much out as I can.
Live, but when you're
and so I actually rent where I live right now, so I don't even own where I live.
And then they go
retirement
on
fraud.
Use that money that was previously earmarked for how you could spend it, so travel or other living costs and stuff like that. So, Michael, you need your house paid off right in order to be retired.
And so, like,
the first thing you did.
Real quick again, I assume both of us think that that's a silly thing that you need, right, as a paid off house in order to retire.
In fact, like, I would argue that the best early retirees know to refinance their house and put that capital they can borrow at 2 or 3% to work, making them a lot more money, right? So probably the people who are going for this, paid off home are probably like super old and conservative.
Yes,
and likely not
very much.
Retirees at all.
Yeah. Okay, boomer. Here we go.
You're aiming for, right? So if you're trying to retire as soon as possible, being comfortable with debt or leveraging is going to be very important, I think, to growing your passive income. But so
we failed question 1.
We don't.
That was some nice animations.
That was.
I like that.
So question number 2, you have a workplace pension plan. So roughly.
So do you have a workplace pension plan?
No.
I do not either. So we failed the first 2 questions on this quiz already. While I find question number 3, do you want to explain why we think that that's a silly thing that you have to have in order to retire?
I mean, it's pretty simple, right? The secret to retiring early into financial independence, if you're young like we are, is in creating streams of passive income, right? And so we create streams of passive income through many sources, and often they are not retirement pension plans. They're dividends or rental properties if we have a property manager in place so we can collect that passive income, or lending our money out, or there's plenty of sources you can dig into, right? Everything from like bonds to there's tons of things you can do to create passive income. You could even create a website and have it run advertisements, and that could be relatively passive. But all those sources of passive income, they're not pension sources of income. No. Pension sources of income require you to work for a really long time, which means by definition you can't retire early. So this wouldn't meet the early retirement quiz, but maybe like a typical boomer retirement quiz. You're 65. I didn't want to talk about that one.
The max for that, because the employer's going to match you. Where are you getting a 100% return on your investment?
Yeah, absolutely. So number 3 is you're 65 and qualify for CPP, OAS, and possibly GIS. So
We just failed that one, so we're 0 for 3 right now on the retirement quiz, so neither of us are 65, nor do we qualify for CPP, OAS, or possibly GIS.
Yeah, no.
I mean, who wants, like 65 is such a long time away to wait to defer all that gratification. Like, it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, especially a lot of people like go through these phases of life now that are just so rigid rather than being fluid. And I think that that's something that we've really learned with time, even compared to the guys that are on screen right here, is that like, I don't know, I feel like I go through seasons of activity where like I want to go really hard for a period of time, then I want to let off the gas. And I don't think that that aligns with, you know, going really hard for 40 years and then letting off the gas for 25. I think it's more like I want to go hard for 6 months or a year, then take a few months off, then go back at it.
Yeah, agreed. And have that choice to do that at any time. That's really what early retirement means to me, right? It's like the choice to work or to not work whenever you want. You want to take a year off, you want to take 10 years off, cool. You want to work the whole time and chase entrepreneurial ventures like a lot of us have been doing in the early retirement community, cool, do that, right? But it's doing that from a place of like, I have the FU money, I have the passive income. I don't work for the money, I just work because I enjoy it.
100%.
Obviously, neither of us are going to qualify for any of that. Again, this is, I think, really just number 4. You have $700,000 in savings. So this one is kind of a no-brainer according to Money Sense. They're including it because some people seem to think they need no less than $1 million to retire. And I guess Money Sense did a series of surveys that determined $625,000 is what people need to reliably retire.
Interesting.
You want to start?
Yeah, sure, I can poke at that. They chose an arbitrary number, like 700,000, or a couple needing 6 or.
So what are your thoughts there?
I don't think my thoughts have changed drastically.
YouTube, sorry to interrupt your video, but I was just hanging out with my boys Jeff Weibo and Humble CEO, and we're talking about how you guys do not comment nearly enough on my YouTube videos, WTF. So what we're going to do to fix that is we're giving stuff away randomly just to YouTube commenters. In fact, we've already selected one. We're going to throw it up here right now for you guys, and we're going to give them something for free. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's swag, maybe it's a one-on-one coaching call with me. We'll figure it out later, but we're going to continuously give away stuff for free to anyone that leaves comments in my YouTube video. I mean, help myself, help Jeff Weibo, help Ben Humble CEO, grow my YouTube channel, but we need your guys' help by commenting way more often. Let's get that engagement up, and thanks again for watching this video.
This one is kind of a no-brainer according to Money Sense. They're including it because some people seem to think they need no less than $1 million to retire. And I guess Money Sense did a series of surveys that determined $625,000 is what people need to reliably retire.
Interesting.
You want to start?
Yeah, sure, I can poke at that. They chose an arbitrary number, like 700,000, or a couple needing 6 or.
So what are your thoughts there?
I don't think my thoughts have changed drastically from that point. Like, that's my first is like, why are they just picking an arbitrary number? Like, it's obviously just based on your living expenses, so it depends what you want to spend.
Using a multiple of living expenses would be a much more accurate portrayal, right?
Sure.
Like,
Exactly.
if you were 30 times living expenses or 25 times living expenses, that'd make a lot more sense as a barometer rather than an arbitrary amount, because I think we could agree that that dollar amount in London, Ontario goes a lot further than in downtown Toronto.
Yeah, so one number is not sufficient, right? Like, it just doesn't cover the wide gamut of different types of early retirements you can have. And it's interesting though, the $625,000, for a long time that was like the number that I fixated on, just at like my living expense rate. And now it's funny that like I sort of shifted in my mentality a bit, where I was like extremely lean flyer, and now I've gotten much more like Lux fire, where I'm into that, you know, more luxurious lifestyle. And I know that like to get those things that maybe I don't need but just want, if I work a little bit harder, you know, I can have those things. And so I've kind of shifted my number up a lot. Like, over time, like I was like, oh, 625 is what I need, and then I hit that number. It's like, oh, actually I need $1 million. And then I like pulled the trigger around that time at like $1 million. And now like my net worth is multiples higher, right? And it's like, now I'm like, oh, maybe I need 10 million to actually like just be like have enough impact on the world. And it becomes less about like my basic living expenses and more about like things I want.
100% agree. And like the other thing to really take into mind is, say that arbitrary $625,000 amount, you know, depending on how you use that can produce a lot of different things, right? Like, I could go and just buy a house like the house we're shooting this in for maybe cash, and I could spend that 625 on that. Or I could take that 625 and lend it out privately and maybe earn an on average 10% return and make 60 grand a year from that dollar amount, right?
Yeah.
Version where I buy this house, I just have a bunch of responsibilities and expenses now and no income. The version where I lend out all that money, I now make $60,000 that I can live off of.
At least, right? Yeah, it's crazy that like you can just reallocate the assets that you have in a different manner, and all of a sudden you have a ton of passive income. There's a lot of people out here probably watching these videos that we're targeting right now from Toronto or Vancouver who have a house worth, the average house in Toronto $1 million or like Vancouver almost $2 million, right, or whatever. Then you've got like these people who have this huge amount of equity in their homes that's just sitting there, and they're like, I can never retire. And I'm like, whoa, if you just moved to London, you have $2 million. At 10%, that's 200 grand a year. Can you live on 200 grand a year in London, Ontario? I mean, how can you not live on 200 grand in London, Ontario? That's the real question.
Yes.
We need to have a conversation about that if you can't live on 200.
So I forget whether we gave ourselves a passing grade or not, but I think on the net income test of things, we'd be fine there at the 625. So I think we're 1 for 4 right now.
Yeah.
Equities or bonds or some type of instrument.
Okay, and then so question number 5, your children are financially stable and independent. So one of the fastest ways to not worry about that, in my opinion, is not to have children. But Michael
Do you still feel that way today?
I would still argue that that's a very true statement. The fastest way would to not be to have children. I'm not saying that that should be a decision in your financial independence journey, but yeah, at the same time, like this idea that your children need to be financially stable and independent. One thing I think we just need to differentiate right off the bat is by the word independent, they're not using it the way we're talking about financially independent. They mean just literally they're not living off of you.
Like I have a 5.5-month-old baby at home, and I have a daughter that's almost like she's 3.5. So by that definition, I would fail.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, Mike has young kids at home, he could never retire. And like people use that as a good excuse or crutch to like avoid like having that conversation sometimes with me. It's like, oh, I could never retire because I have kids, and it's just like they just stop.
I know.
Like I'm not going to build a plan. I'm not going to do anything because no, I have kids. In 18 years, we'll talk about that. And it's like, hey, I've been early retired since my daughter was like 6 months old.
And like such a dangerous mentality, because you at that point in time, if you're going to punt the decision or any of the action for 18 years, you've missed all that potential compound, right? And like that's a really important thing, whether you're investing in real estate, stocks, it doesn't really matter. Anything that's going to appreciate over time, it's really foolhardy, in my opinion, to wait 20 years before you start.
Yeah, like compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. It is the basis of our entire financial independence strategy, is that we can invest money and it will grow for us in perpetuity, right? And we can use that time to build wealth and then retire early, and then beyond that point live on the passive income, because money does grow over time. And that's like, some people have that barrier in their head. Like they think that cash just like depreciates over time, and they don't see that like money grows over time if you invest it effectively. And like fair enough, if you just have it in like GICs at 1% and in cash, then I can see where they're coming from, right? They actually do see their money depleting in value over time. But if they're just smart about reallocating their assets, they would see that money is actually something that grows over time. And it's like, I look at each of my like dollars as like soldiers I want to go put to work, right? They're minions or employees, and like it's your job to manage your personal finances like it's a business. And each of my dollars is an employee that you can go put to work. And a lot of people have a lot of employees just sitting around on payroll, and they could have those guys out there working and producing more than they cost. And so that's the idea with personal finance.
Yeah, 100% agree. But for the record right now, I've got 2 of 5. Mike's at 1 of 5. Just saying. You're going to need almost a perfect score now, Mike.
According to this, like I'm never going to be able to retire for like 15 more years, right? Or 18 more years or something.
All right, let's find question number 6.
It's pretty much just like, are you a boomer, this test?
Yeah.
Like, do you have 30-year-old kids?
Michael was saying that just with some reallocation of assets and reprioritizing things, you
look,
can easily achieve
reallocation
that.
of assets. We're just as smart then as we
Question
are
number
now.
6. You've test-driven a realistic retirement budget. So according to BMO study, the average retiree spends $2,400 a month with $670.
Like, now this is a reasonable thing, I would argue, right? That you've test-driven the lifestyle that you expect to do in retirement. One thing I just want to point out, though, it's really interesting how earlier they were saying Money Sense said you need $625,000, and here we have a BMO study saying that the average retiree spends $2,400 a month.
It's pretty low.
That's very low, right? That's like 30 grand a year. What we're looking at there is all of a sudden like $30,000 a year. if you had that $600,000 nest egg, you need what, 2%? Like, that's an insanely low return. They're like planning for GIC level returns here, which is ridiculous.
You can see that's how they're getting to that number. Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, you could never do like private lending or real estate, like safe, conservative.
And so like, obviously when you go that safe, conservative route, you're really like, yes, you're having lower risk, but you're also like essentially no reward at that point in time.
Yeah. I think that your risk and reward should be like commensurate. So if you're taking like lending 80% loan to value on real estate, for instance, in my opinion, that's extremely conservative, right? The market could dip 15, 20%, you still not lost $1.
Yeah.
And that's major. Like I think the government would step in at a 20% drop in real estate prices and enact some like interest rate regulations or something to that effect, right? To help people qualify. So it's interesting. I think that like, in my opinion, investing in real estate 80% loan to value with a 20% shield is equally as safe as investing in like the bank. Like the chance that the bank fails, right, is like almost similar in my opinion to having real estate correct more than 20% and the government not step in.
And those two things might even be related.
And they are definitely related.
But so I think we'd both agree on that, and both of us kind of knew what we expected to spend in retirement. So we both passed that one. So
we did.
We're there at least. Well, let's do this.
Number 7, you can weather a market downturn. So young investors should welcome market downturns because they often...
So I think this is a really important one, right? Being able to weather market downturn. I think both of us really calculated into our projections some really worst case scenarios, made sure that we had a very resilient or robust plan just to make sure that, hey, if the market does reduce by 10, 15% in real estate, well, is that going to impact my cash flow? Okay, what if rents reduce by 10 or 15%? How does that impact my cash flow? And just kind of playing through all those different scenarios.
I think it's interesting. There I probably had the same perspective that like I've done a million disaster scenarios and planned through that. And it's funny, now I've probably done like 10 million disaster scenarios, because like even late at night I'm just thinking like, oh, what if like my daughter got cancer or something? Like I just plan these worst case scenarios, and maybe it keeps me growing, keeps me, you know.
And maybe that's why you can't sleep at night.
And maybe that's why I can't sleep at night. People who know me know that like I have a bad sleep schedule. I sleep very late at night, and then when I'm forced to wake up early for like the events of life, then I pay the price for that.
So I think both of us, when we went into retirement, we actually had prepared for this. So I feel comfortable giving us both a passing grade.
I agree.
You're keeping your head. But so question number 8, you have varied sources of income. So almost impossible to argue with that.
I think that's sound advice.
I think we'd still agree, right? Both of us are probably still way too real estate oriented, and we understand the risk involved with that. But I think in part one of the ways that we get comfortable with the amount of exposure to real estate we have, each property is a mild bit of diversification, right? It's not like we own one building that gets one tenant that pays us one source of income. I think that you can kind of look at all the different properties in different parts of the city, renting to different grades and types of tenants and things of that nature as mild diversification. Same with if we're getting into some hard money lending, that's a slightly different income source.
Yep, I agree. I think the varied sources of income are like, that's a good I think number 8 is probably the best one I've seen so far. A good retirement plan should have that. I see too many people jump on with just like one source of income, and that's like their total plan. They're like, oh, I'm retiring on like this one thing. I think having varied sources of income is important. What if we have a real estate downturn or something happens? I'm probably too heavy. In the new year, part of my goals, I always make like goals that I try to adhere to, and it just feels good to hit those targets. But part of my goal setting is actually to rebalance some of my portfolio. I know that I'm too heavy in real estate, and I'd like to see myself have a bigger stock portfolio, a bigger private company portfolio where I'm like buying different businesses, as well as like some lending and other things beyond just real estate in and of itself. So I think varied sources of income is essential, right? They say like many chair legs to a chair makes a chair strong, or like many sources of like water allows a river to flow water forever versus like one that could dry up. So have varied sources of income. That's smart.
So we're probably like sort of a pass. We scrape by, I would say, on that one.
I don't think we have even a majority out of 10.
No, we're definitely like, I meant for this one question. I think we get to count that as like a passing for us on question 8, but we're definitely failing overall. All your
You need a
friends are
regular
retired.
paycheck, or is there another more moment?
Well,
It's interesting,
Let's
though,
be fair.
because-
We've slowly created a community of people that have all quit their jobs, so we're slowly getting on the right side of this. But
I was going to say that exactly. Like, I think we're a better path than we were before.
Yeah.
Like, most of my friends that weren't retired, I don't talk to as much just because like life changes and
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
A lot of my friends are entrepreneurs or like don't have jobs in the traditional sense, and so yeah, in some
Yeah.
ways they are kind of retired. It's interesting how your friend group changes after retirement.
yeah, it really is. And I expect that that's only going to continue. For myself, I'm starting to like associate a lot with entrepreneurs that are running their own businesses and stuff that are capable of being fire if they want to, but they'd rather continue to go through this growth phase. With time, I've really started to realize from my perspective that I think either you're growing or you're dying, and I know which side of that equation I want to always be on, and I find very similar perspective in a lot of the serial entrepreneurs that I come across.
Yeah, I echo everything he just said. I agree entirely. That Matt's totally right when he says, you know, you want to feel like you're growing, and maybe that doesn't mean a business, maybe that doesn't mean financially, but you need to feel that growth in some way, and so you have to find out where you're retiring to. And when you find that out, maybe it's going to change a few times. It probably likely will change a few times.
Totally.
But maybe you're growing to like share it with the world on YouTube, or maybe you're going to write a book, or maybe you're going to just travel and you want to experience life. At least you're retiring to something. And as long as you're growing as a person in some way, I think like traveling, you're enhancing your like palette of experiences. And that's what you want out of life, I think. All of us want to grow. And yeah, it doesn't feel good not to grow. Like I could just not imagine, like if I just was like, I can't learn anything more, that would just be such a like a shitty mentality. It feels terrible.
But like I think we do find so many people that they get to a point in life where they're like, I don't want to learn that, or like I'm thinking like my parents' generation with computers and technology,
like,
right?
Get that away from me.
And you're just like, oh man, like you're on the wrong side of history there, and so you're just going to continue to become more and more obsolete. That to me is a really scary thought, just becoming completely personally obsolete.
Yeah, agree.
All right, let's see question 10. Are we going to scrape out one more correct answer?
And it's like,
Yeah.
enjoy
You'll
that.
figure it out.
Yeah, there's worse problems.
Yeah.
So number 10, your job is affecting your health. So do you know that less than half of retirees left the workforce when and as planned? The rest retired earlier, 48%.
See, like that seems like a weird one to make a decision on. Like obviously if your job is affecting your health, I would say you should remedy the situation if that means retirement, quitting, job transfer, new job, whatever that looks like. But I don't think that that's actually a great motivation, like a great factor.
I don't think that's a huge factor. I mean, I could see it if like you had a really successful like corporate downtown job and you're like, oh, I'm like the golden handcuffs are great, I make great money, but like it affects my health and my life negatively. I don't know if I should retire. Like clearly if you have the money, you should retire and like get yourself out of that situation in some way. Like, yeah, make a change. Totally. It was like my job for a while, because I was doing real estate on the side, was affecting my health. Like I would go to bed at like 2 or 3 in the morning and wake up at 7:30 to go to work, and sleeping 5 hours a day was affecting my health, and that was just because I had a job. It got in the way of when I like to sleep, which is like 1:30 to like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So if you force me to wake up before that, you infringe on my ability to get my 8 hours sleep that I need to look beautiful.
Or later, 6%.
Earlier.
Yeah, I retired earlier too, actually. Completely. Having that, it's increasing your control of influence, which almost always, if you're taking responsibility for the situation, it's just always more. Every day you go to work is an active choice rather than an obligation.
I think that's where we kind of find ourselves now with entrepreneurship, right? Like the days to me that it feels overwhelming is often when it doesn't feel like my choice. The days where like I'm overwhelmed, but I know it was an active choice of mine, not actually stressful.
Exactly. Yeah, same here for me.
Awesome. So I think that's pretty much it for this video. Maybe we can catch our little outro, but
what was our outro? We were working on an outro back then. Do you remember? It was like,
oh, was there one more test too?
I think it's just the article you were linking.
So those are the 10 questions from the moneysense.ca article. I'd love to hear you guys' comments in the comments section.
So yeah, we'd still love to hear you guys' comments. Jump in that comment section. Let us know, how did you do on this retirement test? Are you currently retired? You know, do you meet their expectations? Did you beat us on the retirement quiz?
Video description down below. Otherwise, I think that's probably it for this video. Anything?
I just want to leave in a little tidbit. We're going to be doing these series on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any suggestions,
I don't think we stayed accountable.
send us an article and have us talk about it. Send us a topic, have us talk about it.
You can still send us an article, and we can still talk about it. I don't know what kind of cadence we release those videos, but we'll do our best. Matt and I are going to live pretty close, so we can just walk over.
Otherwise, like, send it to us if you want to hear our opinions on it. We'd love to dive into it. And yeah.
Give us the fuel.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you guys got value from it, smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. If people want to follow along your journey, Mike, what's the best way?
Just type in my name, Mike Rosehart, to YouTube, and you'll find my YouTube channel, or Instagram at Mike Rosehart.
Awesome. And yeah, we're curious, did you guys enjoy this reaction video? Should we go back and look at like old smash or pass videos and review whether those deals are now deals, whether they were still passes, all that information? Let us know in the comment section what you would like myself and Mike to do more often on YouTube, because we're open to your feedback, guys. Thanks.
What was our old outro? I was like Mike and Matt.
Yeah.
Let's see if we did
Let
it.
the fire burn.
I think it's before.
Alrighty, thanks again, guys. I'm Matt McKeever.
And I'm Mike Rosehart.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to Mike Rosehart. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective. What did you think about that retirement quiz? Do you agree with the different points it makes? Do you agree with Mike and myself, or are you somewhere in the middle? Let us know, dive in that comment section, and share your opinion.